Ever wondered the following? Why does it cost £3 to get money out of the pub cash machine? Why does it cost £10 to send money to a bank account in France? Well, the government has been wondering this too. Last November saw the launch of the Bogforth inquiry into banking charges. And today, the inquiry finally reached its conclusions. I'm joined by Kevin Winkley, spokesperson for the International Association of Bankers, to discuss some of those conclusions. Kevin, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Kevin, can you give us a summary of the conclusions announced today from the inquiry?
Well, Gordon, very broadly, the inquiry upheld our position. It found that the charges levied by members of our association are entirely reasonable.
I see. So the inquiry found that it is entirely reasonable to charge £3 to draw money out of a cash machine.
That's correct.
And that it is entirely reasonable to charge £10 to send money from an account in England to an account in France.
That's correct.
I see. So let's start with the cash machine charges. Perhaps you could explain the basis of this charge?
Well, I'm not sure why the charge is controversial. An ATM is clearly an additional service. And so there should be an additional charge for that service. It's just like if you go to a restaurant. You expect to pay for the waiter to serve you wine at dinner.
Maybe. But banks already make money by charging interest on loans. We wouldn't expect the restaurant to charge us separately for serving the wine, opening it, and carrying the wine from the delivery van to the kitchen. Not even an Italian restaurant would do that.
But if I may say so, I think you're underestimating the significant costs of maintaining these machines.
Well, perhaps you could explain these costs to us.
Well, Gordon, firstly, there are of course the personnel costs involved in facilitating the pecuniary replenishment of these facilities.
Driving a guy in a van round to fill up the machines with money once a week.
Yes. In addition to these costs, which can amount to thousands of pounds per machine per month, there are networking costs.
Yes, Virgin Media are quite expensive these days.
No. Now you see. This is a common misconception. Banks cannot use ordinary internet connections to connect to one another.
Oh, why not?
Oh, because the flitterments and the wires are all wrong.
The flitterments?
Yes. In the wires. They're all wrong for banking communications. So you see, banks must use a special communications network. And that network is very expensive because it is special.
I can see why the inquiry committee were so convinced. But perhaps you could explain for some of our more technical viewers. Why is this communications network so special?
Well, Gordon, I'm glad you asked me that. You see, when you put your card into a machine, it isn't as simple as the machine talking on the telephone. It is to use a special system called bytes to communicate with the bank. And that system is very complicated and expensive.
Well, perhaps we could turn to the question of bank transfers then. Last week I had to send some money from my English bank account to a French bank account to pay for my holiday. And I was charged £10 for this simple procedure. And the transfer also took 5 days to complete.
Well, you see, this sounds like a simple operation. But there are actually a number of steps involved.
So let me guess. You have to subtract a number from the balance in my account. Then you have to send a message to another bank to tell it to add a number to a balance in the other account.
But Gordon, you're forgetting that it isn't that simple. Remember that the message cannot be sent over the telephone.
Okay, you have to use that special bank system called bytes.
Yes. And you cannot send this message over the internet. Instead, a special, more expensive system must be used.
Because of the flitterments?
Yes. They're all wrong for banking, I'm afraid. And then you're forgetting the currency conversion.
Is that a complex process? Isn't it just a multiplication? I mean, my laptop can do about 1 billion of those per second. What takes you guys 5 days?
Gordon, you'd think it would be that simple. But I'm afraid we couldn't use a laptop to carry out vital banking operations.
No, I suppose not. My quad-core machine is clearly incapable of doing a currency conversion and sending a message over the network in such a short time scale as 5 days. So what do you people use?
That's a very interesting question. For banking operations, we actually use a special machine called a difference engine.
The same difference engine invented by Charles Babbage in the 1800s.
You're familiar with the technology.
I've seen it in a museum. And so you have a bank of these difference engines handling transactions.
No. This is another common misconception. The difference engine is a high-precision piece of engineering manufactured from solid gold. And so there is only one difference engine for all of the bank transfers carried out in Europe. Using a solid gold manually operating difference engine does incur some extra costs. But in the bank sector, where precision is of utmost importance, the additional cost is worth it.
I see. So that's why it takes you guys 5 days to carry out an addition, a subtraction and a multiplication and send a few bytes between England and France. And why it costs the taxpayer 10 quid a shot for the privilege.
That's correct.
Kevin, thanks for clearing that up.
You're welcome, Gordon.
I thought they swam the money across the fucking channel.